All right, Lonesome Report. I'm Jim Mundorf in Southwest Iowa with Shad Sullivan.
The
Head,
headwaters of Bitter Creek, Archer County, North Texas.
and we both showed up with ball caps on, and we didn't even
Yeah.
plan it.
Nope.
I've been farming, so apologies to anyone that wanted to. We actually did hear from people because we missed last week, and we actually did record something, and I just didn't get it up, and it wasn't the best thing anyway because it was about 10 o'clock at night, and I've been working on the farm. We're picking corn and I just don't have a free minute. So we got off a little bit early tonight. And so hopefully this one will actually make it two people. But it was good to hear from some people that were like, hey, where you been? So we're doing
Yeah,
something
it
right.
was. It was. They were expecting it.
And so, Shad, you've been watching the news because hopefully you have the topics because all I have is the RFK video.
Yeah.
Is that the main thing we should talk about?
Well, we got the RFK video, which was I saw that this week. That was good. And we have McDonald's E. coli outbreak. That's been big and huge and kind of, you know, dives into that lawsuit McDonald's has against the big
I
four.
had people people text me or send me messages like, "Do you think this? We hear about the lawsuit, and all of a sudden there's E. coli." And
Yeah.
it's like, well, I don't think it's related, but I like where your
Yeah.
head's at
I would think it wouldn't be related, but
because they're
yeah.
saying. I heard today they say it's in the onions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not even the burgers, and yeah, but then also I heard it's only quarter pounders,
That's what I heard. It was only quarter pounders.
and they only source their quarter pounders from the same place. But then why does that have to do with the onions? I
Yeah,
don't know.
what does that have to do with the onions? And why would onions have E. coli in
All
them?
kinds of vegetables have E. coli in it. Lettuce, that's Chipotle had all kinds of trouble with lettuce and spinach and all kinds of
With
stuff.
E. coli?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's the
Okay.
thing. And, that goes back to our beef industry. Everybody hears E. coli, they instantly think meat, but it turns up it's way more common in vegetables.
I'll be darned. I guess I don't have enough
I mean,
experience.
don't quote me on that, but
Well, I don't have any experience in E. coli.
I
I don't
don't
know.
have, I don't have a ton either, but I know Chipotle had all kinds of issues and it was like their lettuce and spinach and stuff. And now I heard today on the news they said they are. I don't think it was definitive, but they were
Pretty
guessing it
sure.
was in the onions.
Very good. Well, I mean, it sounds terrible. I think somebody died.
Yeah, that would be a rough way to go. I don't know how
Yeah.
that goes, but anyway, um, you
Yeah,
think
and
it's
then
connected to the lawsuit? You're the radical.
no, I don't. I wouldn't think it would be connected to the lawsuit. What I mean, the only thing that I could come up with is the relationship to food sources and traceability. Right? We're going to prove those people wrong, and here we are. We got an outbreak of E. coli. We're trying to implement traceability. We need to know where that food. That's the only thing that I
Yeah,
my
but
mind.
I almost think this goes against that because it's like, McDonald's quarter pounders, how are you tracing them? To Brazil, or to, Australia? I mean, I don't think
Oh, that's a good point. I have no, I don't think they trace any of that stuff. But
maybe
I
they
mean,
do,
it
maybe
is
they
a good,
can, but
it is
th
a good excuse for the FDA and to come in the USDA and say, hey, this is proof, that traceability program would work. But then you'd have to say, well, you guys have to have a country of origin label, and you don't know where that beef comes from. So how can you even be talking?
right. Yeah.
So, all I
But
know is that's a bad deal. And I remember back in 1993, when Jack in the Box had this bad E. coli outbreak, and there was just lots of people died from it. And that was,
93, I was like a junior high.
oh yeah, I know. I was in college, and it happened while I was in college. I was in Wyoming, and I remember the
And we
news that
don't have
morning.
Jack in the Box either.
We do have one in Wichita Falls, Texas here, but I mean, it killed several people, and it was a big deal. And that was the really bad blight on the beef industry right then at a bad time. So these things do happen, but I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. You got to prepare that food right. It's a
Yeah.
big deal.
That's why we should have stricter restrictions on imports
Totally agree.
or or
Totally.
or stricter inspections, I guess, on
Well,
meatpacking plants in other countries.
in other countries, correct. That's right.
Because I guess sometimes I get into these things and then I'm like assuming people have listened to everything we've ever said and then remember it. But meatpacking plants in other countries get inspected by the USDA every, I believe, 2 to 3 years,
Every third year.
and
Right.
they are given an advance notice of when the inspection's happening.
Correct.
So there you go.
Why
And
is that? I mean,
it's
why is there a
insane.
double standard? Why is there a
It's
double
not
standard?
even, it's a quadruple standard. It's because, so here's the other thing that everyone needs to know is your local beef plan. If I take a cow or a steer down to my local locker and I want to sell it across state lines or ship it nationally, a, a USDA inspector has to be there while that animal is butchered the entire time and watch the butcher cut it up. Where if I sent that sucker to Brazil or Australia or Namibia or any of these other countries that are importing beef, USDA inspectors show up every 2 to 3 years and they let them know they're coming.
Yep. That's
And they
right.
don't hit every plant in the country. So they don't even go to every single plant. I believe. I think they just come in and hit a few random plants and then like you're good. Here's your whatever.
I wonder what the
I mean, it just
protocol on that is. How do they do? Do they negotiate with the country's federal government to come in and inspect those plants? I wonder what the protocol on that is.
I mean, the USDA is controlled by corporations. It just goes to show. And it's like you just
Yeah.
said, why is that? Why is there a double standard or a quadruple standard? It's because corporations want to import cheap meat and they don't want U.S. producers to be butchering their own and selling it
Yep.
direct.
That's right.
I mean, there's only one answer. I mean, what else could it be?
Control the flow. Yeah, the beef imported from Namibia in 2020 was what really catapulted my video into viral sensation because that was the day is in March 2020 that the USDA came out and said there was a backlog. We're going to help you alternatively market these cattle or dispose and destruct them. And that it was that week that they were going to, for the first time ever, import Namibian beef, grass-fed beef, into the United States. And that was a huge contention because nobody knew about the inspection status of it.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
That's where I learned that, yeah, when that came along and I read, that's where I researched it all and learned all this stuff. And yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
else do
Well,
you have?
I mean, I do hope that, they get on top of that because, I'm not a big fan of McDonald's, but I don't want to see my countrymen die from eating a hamburger at McDonald's.
Yeah, it's not good for anybody,
It's not good for
even
nobody.
though McDonald's probably isn't the best for anybody. But the best thing what I tell people too is that, oh, McDonald's cheeseburgers are terrible for you. But the best thing out of a McDonald's cheeseburger that is the best thing for you is the meat. Like, you know what I mean? Like the bread isn't good for you. All the ketchup and crap they put on it isn't good for you. I guess you get a leaf of lettuce in there or something, but and then they have this Big Mac, which I don't think I've ever had a Big Mac, but there's 3 pieces of bread. There's like
Yeah, and a whole bunch of
so it's
special
mostly like
sauce.
bread, I guess. I don't think I've ever had one. I did
I had
used
a
to eat double quarter pounders, which is
Well, I
mostly
will tell you this, Jim, that I had a chiropractor one time that I went to religiously in Colorado Springs, and he sat a McDonald's cheeseburger and fries on his front desk as you walked in, and that stayed for 3 years, and it never rotted.
Yeah, I've seen
And
people
I'm
that
like,
find them. They make
this is
videos
crazy.
after they find them, and the package looks like an old vintage package. Then they
Yes.
unwrap it, and it looks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. My little boy, he'll say, I can eat some chicken nuggets, but I can't eat one of those cheeseburgers. And I'm like, you ain't eating chicken here with me, son.
Never ate a chicken nugget. Have you tried one yet?
No, I am not eating that chicken nuggets.
I'm still not sure I believe that. Somebody did message me. They called BS on that. I say, yeah,
Did they?
yeah.
Really? I've
Hmm.
never had a chicken nugget in my life.
I think I remember who it was. I could tell you later. I don't want to
I
call them out on
I've
here.
had chicken strips from Chicken Filet. My kid loves that place.
My kid loves Raisin Canes.
We have one there too in Wichita Falls, and my wife likes Raising Canes. I have ate their chicken, but I have never eaten a pressed McNugget from McDonald's. Never.
Hmm. All right. What you got? What else you got? You want to talk
Okay,
about
what do you want to talk about?
that RFK thing?
Yeah, let's talk about that RFK thing. That was really interesting.
Yeah. What'd you think?
You know,
American agriculture, or I think he said farmers, need an off ramp from the current system.
I agree with that.
So here's the thing. I was in tractor day and my phone doesn't hook up. And I'm gonna pause this for just 1 second. I'm actually not gonna pause it, but I'm gonna cut this out. What was I saying? I was in the tractor day.
Well,
So
your phone didn't hook up.
yeah, because I mean I think I might, but I don't know how to do it. Um, but I listened to Agri Talk and Chip Flory. Um, and he interviewed Chuck Grassley, and he brought that up, and I was real kind of interested in what he would say. And Chuck Grassley said, "Well, that sounds all good, but if you want to get rid of GMOs, which I'm not taking sides here, but he said if you want to get rid of GMOs, we're going to be harvesting 50 bushel corn instead of 200 bushel corn." Which it's like to me, it's like, well, you're taking one line of the BS and you're pulling the BS. You can't just BS both. Like RFK says, we're soaking everything in herbicides, which isn't really true. And then, so then Chuck Grassley says, well, if we don't, we're going to raise 50 bushel corn. Like it's somewhere in the middle there, you know.
That's what my thought was. Is we have to find a balance of it, and
Yeah,
I
and you
do.
got to find the truth of what really is happening. Like I don't really see that the herbicides are, but I don't know. It's like I used to think I understood things, and then COVID happened, and I'm like, well, I'm not taking it. I'm not like some, and I haven't even researched the glyphosate and all that kind of stuff that much either. But I'm open to anything really at this
Well,
point.
here's the facts. Facts are is we have less farmers. The facts are that Sonny Perdue said, "Get big or get out." The corporate agriculture has just conglomerated across the world and the United States, putting independent producers out. That is a fact. And so we have to do, there's got to be a fix there. And I'm not talking about any of these, chemicals that you're talking about. All of that is beyond me. I'm saying we have allowed the monopolization of American agriculture, the corporatization of it, which was wrong. And because of that, we have fewer producers, and we need more for producers. We need more options of marketing. And what RFK Jr. is saying is we want to open that up. It won't happen overnight, but
Yeah.
we want to start down the road to recovery. And I'm all for regenerative agriculture. You know what? I'm not going to tell you I'm a regenerative rancher. I'm a rancher that utilizes, unedible forages to put pounds on my cattle and feed my family and my community and the world.
Well,
I'm
here I
not
got one for you.
okay.
Um, one question I thought when I was listening to that, because he said I know people who have turned deserts into grasslands.
Right, I saw
I
that.
think and you know who he's talking about, right? I wanted to get your opinion. I don't think I've ever got your opinion on Alan Savory. Have you? You know who I'm talking about?
I know Alan Savory.
You know him?
Well, I don't know him personally, but my dad knew him personally, very personally.
Really? Was he from Colorado?
No, no, Alan Savory's from
Oh yeah, he's like a South American or
yeah,
something.
South America. But
Or South African. Is
back
that what I'm
when
trying to say?
it's South Africa, it's another country. But when when the savory system that came
Yeah.
on in the 80s and 90s, and holistic management and all of that stuff. And I think he was an expert in his field, and I think he had success in it. But I will tell you that every place on earth is different and produces differently. And
Yeah.
to take away proven production standards from all ranchers and say you have to do it this way, farmers and ranchers, and you have to do it this way, is not right. Because not every, I don't get the same amount of rain in Texas as I get in Colorado. It's a whole different productive system. And
Yeah.
so his system, yes, he's very famous, and I think people loved him and all that in the regenerative deal. But I know he caused a little chaos in my family because of his pushing the holistic management and the savory system through state lands. And you had to abide by their rules and do all these things that did not work and were proven not to work in certain areas. And
Right.
so that's my experience with the savory system.
Yeah. See, I figured you were more knowledgeable than I was. And yeah, I agree with, and he's also big in the round tables and all that stuff too. Or the Savory Institute is.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about that, how one thing doesn't work. One thing that showed me that was most interesting as far as getting on Twitter and following like ag Twitter, what they call it, is like how people just don't realize there's so many people that don't get out very much. And so they're like, when they see anybody doing something different than they do or that doesn't work in their neighborhood, they're like, oh, you dumbass, that'll
Yeah.
never work. It's just kind of like, buddy, you're 1,000 miles away. How do you know
I,
what's going to work?
I know
Different weather, different
exactly.
dirt, different everything. And it's like people can seem so close-minded, but
And listen, I'm all for regenerative agriculture. I believe in it. I think it's great. And I think there's a great movement for it. But, I feel like in our operation here, we are established. And I feel like how we do it, it works and it benefits the land and the animals and us, because we have to do it at a profit no matter what anybody says. And sometimes you have to hit the ground harder. Sometimes you let it grow more. I mean, there's all these production variables, and all of these young regenerative farmers, and God bless them. I love their try and I love their enthusiasm. But like I watched one on social media, and he came from the Northwest and bought a ranch in Texas, and he's telling everybody how to do all this stuff. And I'm just like, I just want to be a rancher, right?
yeah.
I just want to do what I know how to do, and we do it well, and we've done it as good as anybody has done it. So forgive me for having a little bit of sarcasm in that, but I'm open to new things, and I want to learn and do better. That was my whole goal as a
Yeah.
rancher. I want to do better every year for everything: the land, the cattle, and us. And
And
now I'm
also
start.
the other part of that video I thought was interesting because he talks about like how mid and small size farms are getting squeezed out. And I've seen a lot about this like recently. People have been posting a lot because the farmers are getting older. Have you seen this? Farmers are getting older, and now we're going into the biggest redistribution of land and wealth ever because of the age of farmers and how there's so few getting into it and all that kind of stuff. And I don't feel like because I live on what, or I mean, I'm part of what would be a small to mid-sized farm. My family is on one, and I think that would be considered small. I don't know. I guess I don't know because now we have all these people with 10 acres and they're growing carrots and stuff. And I mean, is that what he's talking about? But
Well,
um, but I'm just saying, like the economically, like we're not having a hard time, because we raise corn and soybeans, and like right now prices suck. But over the past few years, actually during my lifetime, it's not been a bad gig. You know what I mean? So, but I do think where we're getting pushed out, and you talk about the corporatization, is these families. I feel incredibly lucky because both of my brothers are like tomorrow we're all going to be there working, picking corn. And we're very connected to the farm still, and we all want to see it continue in the family.
right.
And we're not, none of us are in a spot where we just want a bunch of cash, which there probably are very few families where Somebody's going to want cash and somebody's going to want bought out. And that's where the real issue with losing these farms are because the land prices are so high. And that's what also causes um, these sales. If they
And
didn't see the $1 million checks coming, they wouldn't instantly want to be bought out or sell. And that's what it's the S Lazy H song. You know that? Core Blund?
this is where no, yeah, well, I don't think that song. I know Core Blund, but I don't.
Oh man.
This is where RFK is. This is where RFK is right. We have created a system that has so many entry barriers that it's totally unfair. We have this deal where families have to sell out, and there's lots of reasons. People, the generation my mom is, the baby boomers, they're all getting old and they're dying, and so then they have multiple kids. There's all sorts of different circumstances that surround passing the farm on. Maybe, you just talked about it, money, who wants this, who wants that. But there are so many barriers of entry into agriculture from the outside and from within an established operation. You know, Inheritance taxes are going to be an issue. All of these things are going to be an issue. Uh, being more competitive on the farm and ranch is so important. A price discovery, transparency, competition, all of these things that we've been preaching about are so important because they have created barriers of entry through the system, and we aren't able to utilize those means of getting back in, even on the ground level. With, if you just want to be a kid that's gone to college and want to become a rancher. I just listened to a podcast a couple of days ago about this, and this host of this podcast is like, "Oh man, the guy that's coming on here is just like me. He's gone out and he's got him a job and he's got all these dreams, and he's going to do this for so many years so they can buy their family ranch." That's not how this should be, Jim. We
Right.
should be able to have a competitive market to get these kids. Is it going to be easy? No, but it's impossible now. You either have to inherit it or marry it. Now, you cannot. By the time he's done doing all his work, he's going to be wore out and he don't want to buy a ranch. His
Right.
dream is half over because he's so far down the road. RFK is right. These an exit ramp, an off ramp,
Of the
might be
current
helpful
system,
in
yeah.
eliminating these. Yeah, eliminating these barriers of entry. I think it's very important that we hit on that. And that's a whole different issue than regeneration, but but then it all comes back together down the road.
And if
But
you don't
you can
like
be
what
as
he's
regenerative
saying,
if you
yeah, the other thing is if you don't like what he's saying, nobody's ever given any other sort of off ramp of the current system. And what the current system has
no,
done
nothing.
is just shrink and shrink
No.
and shrink the
Yeah,
population of people working in agriculture.
totally. I mean, we're at
And
1%,
so,
1% of the population work in agriculture. That's not a good thing.
right.
I mean, I think we're depending on 1% of the people to feed our communities and our families and our world, and that is not a good thing.
You said it, brother. I
Yeah,
still
I just
I'm a little bit stuck on you haven't ever heard. You're just not into music. That's what we're finding out through this deal. You didn't
I'm
know the
into.
Robert Earl King song. You
Yeah,
didn't know
I
the Randy Rogers song. And
no.
and maybe I'm too into it because all this reminds me. But the Core Blunt song is pretty much the story. The S Lazy H. He tells us it's a story of a guy who worked on the ranch with his dad, and his dad
That was in Wyoming. You know who wrote that?
he wrote it because he wrote it about his buddy's ranch. I heard him talk about it.
Okay.
I'm pretty
I,
sure
I don't
S Lazy H was his friend's ranch, and I don't know if this happened at that ranch, but he wrote it
know.
about S Lazy H. But his sister her sister married a lawyer, or she was a lawyer, and they looked over the fence, and all they saw was dollar signs or something, and so they sold he had to try to buy him out, and they sold a quarter section or something. I can't remember the words, but I wish I could. Anyway,
There's a
it tells the
color. He
story
didn't write
because
that. He didn't write that. There's a Colorado cowboy poet, Hugh. that wrote that song, and I know what song you're
Poor
talking
Glenn
about.
doesn't sing other people's songs
Well, maybe he did. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go listen to
unless
it
they're
tonight.
like tying knots in the devil's tail or something. Um,
Great poem. That's a great poem.
and song.
Mhm.
You are the poet, so
Hey, this
maybe I
weekend
shouldn't
I am
be talking
going.
bad about you. You're just focused on your own work.
Well, I am a poet, and this weekend I am was invited to go to the Red Steagle Cowboy Gathering to the invited poets session.
Congratulations, you
I
and
got
Waddy Mitchell.
no Waddy's no. Kai Reef is going to be there, and Teresa Burleson. There's several people, but I mean, I'm not trying to get off on that. I'm still stuck in this regenerative agriculture and getting people back into the business. That's our goal. That is my goal. Is I want to get younger kids back in the business. I hope someday when all my siblings are old and we have a ranch sitting out there that we can find a young person that we can lease that ranch to and give them a start, and maybe they can buy it and carry that on. I would hate to see our ranch split up. Uh, we have to change the barriers of entry, and RFK Jr. is right about that. Sorry
All
about
right.
that.
Anything else?
Any other newsworthy stuff? Yeah, so I got a call today that kind of disturbed me a little bit, and apparently there was a Zoom call that took place between American Farmland Trust and Tom Vilsack today, and you had to register. You could be a part of it, but you had to register. I didn't find out about it until after it was over, but a friend of mine participated on the call, and she was so disturbed, and she's like, "Man, this is not good." And I was like, "Well, what was the big topic?" And she said, "Conservation, conservation. Vilsack's all about sustainability and conservation." And really what she came away from it, Jim, understanding was is that we want to trade production agriculture for renewable energy. And she said, Tom Vilsack said to the people, ranchers and farmers are no longer going to depend on their source of income through production agriculture, but through uh, renewable energy, solar, wind, and
Carbon.
thermal in the carbon capture. Carbon capture is a big one, and so that's problematic. And she just akened it to the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, cotton, all of that, and it's just all about conservation.
So
And
what
this is
was
what
the meeting was just about what? Like was there a point to it or was it like a lot of
yeah,
meetings where
they're
it's
well, American Farmland Trust is seems to be, they're pushing conservation easements,
and they
and
got
they
to sit down with the USDA secretary? I mean, who gets that ever?
apparently how does that happen? I don't know. They must be all big buddies or friends, but that's concerning because I told you, I don't know if our listeners knew this. I told you I had a friend that said they had a discussion with Tom Vilsack, and Vilsack, said farmers and ranchers are not doing enough to mitigate climate change, and you are going to have to comply with conservation regulations. We want you to sign up, and those who do not comply, we are coming after you first. That came from Tom Vilsack, and that's very concerning because I own my ranch, and if I want to put a conservation easement, I can. If I don't, I don't want to. But don't threaten me.
Right.
That's that's pretty scary. But anyway, she was a little bit disturbed by the call, and she's going to get us some paperwork on it. She tried to record it, but it didn't work, and so lots going on. I mean, there's stuff going on everywhere. The news.
Well,
I don't think I've ever seen since my cell phone days. I don't think I've ever seen my news ticker tape come across my phone with so much agriculture stuff. I
really?
mean, the
Mine's like
EID
election
every
nonstop.
day. Well, every day I'm getting EID stuff. Ranchers against EID. People for EID. All this stuff. I mean, every day. And yeah, so the election's coming up. What's going to happen with the election, June?
Did you see the other thing RFK put out today that I should try to find it. Um, the Department of Defense, I'm not even on there. The Department of Defense passed or the Biden put through the Department of Defense bill that allows them to use, I'm on the wrong thing, to use force against U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. Did you see
What?
that? Yeah, hold on a second,
I
bucko.
thought they said that's what the big
Okay.
buzz on social media was with Trump, that Trump had threatened to use military
Well,
force against.
yeah, that's what they just, and then they came out and said Trump's Hitler. So RF Kennedy Jr., this is on Twitter. This is the kind of, so President Harris said this morning,
Vice president,
Trump,
vice president.
vice president said, um, Trump said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had, which I think is complete. I don't know that there's no way he said that. He wants a military that is not loyal to the Constitution, but loyal to him. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is from the people who know him best. That is, so she
That's
said that
total
this
bull
morning.
crap. That's total.
And RFK Jr., Democrat, not, don't forget, this is the kind of inflammatory poison that divides our nation and inspires assassins. It's particularly ironic since Biden and Harris have just pushed through Department of Defense Directive 5240.01, giving the Pentagon power for the first time in history to use lethal force to kill Americans on U.S. soil who protest government policies. If you want to understand a politician, the words from her mouth have little relevance. Look at her feet.
My Lord.
Which I mean, there it is. Like she's saying Trump wants to use military for his own good, and they've tried to throw him in jail.
Oh my gosh.
And Biden just came out and said we got to lock him up.
Listen,
I
I'm
mean,
telling you, these
that's
tracks,
scary stuff.
it
That
is scary
because
stuff.
they're doing that right before the election.
I
They're
know.
saying that the
I still contend every single thing that they accuse you of,
oh, I
they are
know,
guilty of. Every single thing. And
like
here
all this foreign interference, and then Biden's kid works at this
I
company in
know.
Ukraine, and we send Ukraine hundreds of billions of dollars, and nobody even wants to look at it. So insane. But then it goes back to what you just said about Vilsack. We're coming after you first, and they just do that. I mean, it's what do you think's gonna? What's your prediction? What are we 2 weeks out?
Yeah.
I was just thinking
Well,
today, like this is gonna be some nutty 2 weeks, or maybe after the election will be the nuttiest 2 weeks.
what is your prediction? Let's hear that.
I don't know. I feel like people are getting too confident in Trump. Because I do hear, I mean, I'm listening to the radio, bouncing around AM radio, and people are all like, "Oh, Republicans have this great turnout already." I just don't understand. I just don't know how they can let him win with the things that they've said. Like her right there, she's saying Trump wants to be Adolf Hitler. She pretty much just said that, and so then they're gonna. I just I don't.
I,
I
I'm
kind
just
of think they
telling
kind of
you,
control. I mean,
I
they got 10 million, 20 million, however many illegals that they've flown all over the place. What's going on with that? Where are those ballots? I just, I mean, I just feel like I remember last election where I think everybody went to bed on election night thinking Trump won. And here the next day, well, you didn't quite win. Then the next day, well, Biden's actually ahead. Well, it's over. He didn't
no,
win,
I
And then you have these counties, like there's a county in California that said they're going to take 10 days to count their ballots. It's like they just want to, and for California, it's like, well, take as long as you want. I mean, we know what's going on there, but I mean, it's just so much weird stuff happened in the last election, and
I
I
know.
feel I just hope that they straightened it out, but I don't know.
Well,
You
I'll
think
just
they
tell
straightened
you.
it out?
No, of course they didn't straighten it out, and I will
Like
tell you.
what went on in Michigan when they threw those poll watchers out and didn't allow them to watch, and then nothing ever happens to that?
But I think even the moderate Democrats have wisened up to that. I honestly think that Trump will win the election. And but I say this is where I say you cannot, and I have a friend at home in Colorado who's posted last night on social media. I just can't vote for Trump. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
then
it is
don't.
your fiduciary duty to vote. And you may not like Trump, but if we don't get every conservative and Christian out to vote, it's like going to a basketball game. Okay, if you're a good enough team, you can beat the refs. Well, if we get enough people out to vote, we can beat that. Do I think they're going to cheat? Yeah, I do. I have no confidence in them. I think they're corrupt and crooked, and I think they have no moral obligation to
One
interact.
thing I feel like that should give you confidence is they seem like they are flailing right now. Like that
They
whole
are
Trump
flailing.
is Hitler thing. Like that's what you got.
Yep.
I mean, you've said that he's been
And
investigated. People who think that some big story is going to come out here in the next week, I mean,
I
I guess it
know.
always can, but the guy has been investigated
Here's the
more
deal. He's beat every single
than,
investigation, every charge, all of it. I mean,
well, I mean, they've convicted him or whatever in New York, but they had
so
to change all the rules.
yeah, but I mean, he's still leading
Yeah.
campaign for the
Oh yeah.
president of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a perfect man, but I'm telling you, there's a reason that he is where he is, and I don't know. I
What do
think
you
it
think?
will.
How do you think Joe Rogan's going to go? He's going to be on there. And that, do you listen to him very much?
No, what are you asking me? How's he going to
Trump's going
vote?
to go on Joe Rogan on Friday.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's like a 3 hour. Usually those conversations are like 3 hours.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And he said Rogan was a terrible person because Rogan said that he wasn't going to endorse him or something. And then Trump had this tweet about how Rogan was a terrible person and he should be booed at UFC events and all this stuff. You know, just typical Trump. Anybody said something bad about him, he goes for the throat, seems
Yeah, he
like.
does. He
But
goes for.
I mean, he said before that he regrets some of the stuff he's tweeted. And I think, I feel like if he said more stuff like that, he would do better. But one thing is to be interesting is if because one thing Rogan talks a lot about is COVID and how messed up it was. And if they get into that, that would be interesting to hear because I haven't heard a good kind of explanation from Trump or
From
even the
Trump.
campaign. But the
I
fact that RFK Jr. is now part of the team, that says a lot because there was no one more critical of the entire COVID plan and everything than RFK Jr.
Well, I mean, I've heard over and over and over that Trump was a non-politician and he got in there quickly and he didn't know what he was doing and he just said hire the people. I think it's a whole different go round now. I think they're studying. I even think USDA is going to be revamped in a good way. I'm praying, and it'll be a different go round. Now, are we going to have growing pains? It's going to be rough. We can't get back on track without this thing getting rough.
That one
But
guy, there was an interview where one guy said there's going to be so much mental health crisis because if Trump wins, because people
I
will lose their
saw
minds.
that. I
Which
saw
there
that.
is.
I was
Did you
like,
see that
what?
lady on a doorbell today? There's a video. So I get time where I'm sitting in the tractor, so I end up seeing a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. Um, and there was a lady. She came up and rang a lady's doorbell and just started screaming the F word at her because she was gonna vote for Trump. And she goes, he's the moral candidate. And she goes, F you. And she's like, well, see, this is what I'm talking about.
This is
Are
proves the
you
case.
effing serious? Huh?
It proves the
It
case.
was in Salt Lake City too. Yeah, it was pretty funny actually. But um I don't
I
even know where I was going with that. But
well,
but I mean, I guess there's a lot of like the whole Trump derangement syndrome. Like
I'm just telling you right
people
now, we can't get any more. I guess I shouldn't say we can't get any more mentally unstable than we are now. We probably can, but I mean that side is so mentally deranged at the moment. I don't know that we will. They might get worse, but I don't think the conservative side, the right leaning people, will go crazy. I think I think
well,
it'll be a positive step in the right direction.
yeah, but what if Harris wins?
If the Harris wins, the damn Republicans or the I shouldn't say Republicans. I have to come back to conservatives. They're just going to put their nose to the grindstone and go to work, and they're going to go to work locally, on their local level, their regional level, and they're on their state level, and they're going to try to make good change and block all of these horrible policies. And that's all they can do. We're
Is
all
Ted,
going to be
you're
poor.
so let's get local. Is Ted Cruz gonna win?
No.
You think he's gonna lose?
Yep. My
But that's
wife just
really
asked me that a
important.
while ago.
That's like a really I got a fly buzzing around my camera lens, if anyone's wondering what's going on there. Um, that's like a really important seat.
Yeah, it is. He's not going to win.
Why do you think that?
Um,
They'll cheat
no,
the
no,
illegal alien ballots? Yeah,
I
it'd be
don't,
tough. Is it tough to cheat in Texas? Like, do you have to
I don't,
ID and all
I
that?
don't think that would be. I don't think they will cheat. But I think that guy that is running against him is so middle of the road. I mean, he's portraying himself moderate, and to listen to him talk, he's super guy, and I can tell just by looking at Ted Cruz. Ted's nervous. I
Yeah,
mean,
I heard
I
an
mean,
interview with him and he was very concerned.
yeah, he's very concerned, and man, they're asking for money every. I'm getting 20 texts a day.
Oh yeah.
Donate, donate, donate. But I ask this. I'm all about. Has his time run out? Has Ted Cruz's time run out? Maybe, but maybe this guy is middle of the road, and maybe he would do some good. Now, listen, I'm a conservative, but maybe maybe it's time. I don't know. I don't know.
You know it
I
ain't time.
I know. I know.
Because you don't
I
want to you don't want a Democrat.
no,
I know you, Shad Sullivan, don't want a Democrat majority in
no,
the
I
Senate.
don't. I don't.
So is that enough? Is that too much? Probably.
Too much talking?
940. Oh, we were not too bad.
No, we're good. We're in good shape. I think
That's Fly. He just loves my camera.
I see that, but you can't
I got
really
three
fit.
lenses and he's just dancing around on all three of them.
And I got them all above me.
Yeah.
Um, that's all I know about. I mean, there's lots of little stuff going on, but hey, the vast majority of the nation is dry, except where it floods. And it's flooding in New Mexico and flooded in the southeast, all these great, huge floods. But it's pretty dang dry across the central part of the United States. Although they
We got
did
a
get,
few drips of rain the other night.
did you?
Actually, 2 nights. Yeah, I mean that's barely settled the dust.
We had an inch of rain in Colorado on our ranch last week when they had that 2 or 3 foot of snow in the San Juan Mountains of southwest Colorado. We had a nice rain out of that. So if Texas doesn't get rain soon, and I'm talking in the next 2 weeks, and I'm talking the wheat country, the wheat grazing is going to pose a problem for cattlemen because it's going to be
Your
too
wheat is just sitting in the ground, huh?
just sitting in the ground
Waiting for a drink.
waiting for a drink. Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
I'll post a link to the RFK video. I say this and then I never do it. And I think someone commented one time. You should post a link when you say you're going to post links. What else we talk about? McDonald's, everybody knows what's going on there. S Lazy H.
I gotta
Listen
okay.
to it.
I'm gonna listen to it.
That's where we're going to end.
The old double diamond. Okay. It is
Oh, yeah.
the old double diamond. That's the
Is
one I
that
was
what you were thinking?
yeah,
Yeah, because that's all about Wyoming.
yeah. The old double diamond.
I play
Okay, I
that.
gotta listen to the S Lazy H.
Who is who's your favorite old double diamond version? Because there's a lot of I know who mine is.
Who is yours?
Me and Ada listen to it for a lullaby at nighttime. Dave
Who's
Stamey.
oh, yeah. Um, I don't know.
Most people know Ian Tyson's version. Or oh, no, Chris Ledoux. I think Chris Ledoux sang it. Yeah,
Uh
that's where I first heard it was Chris Ledoux.
that song made
That
old Hugh
is maybe
a
my
lot.
favorite cowboy song. What?
It made him a lot of money.
Chris Ledoux?
No. Who wrote that? Hugh McLennan?
Yeah, yes. I don't know who wrote it, but I know it was some guy. I think he actually lived it. Like it was his story.
No,
He
it
wrote
was
it.
his story. He lives in Greeley, Colorado right now. I'm friends with him on Facebook.
No kidding.
Yeah, he wrote that song out in Nashville, and Chris Ledoux's father was in Nashville selling Chris Ledoux tapes out of his trunk, and he wrote that song and collaborated. He wanted Chris Ledoux to sing that song, the old double diamond. It's a high.
I don't think that's how it goes, but
No, I know, but you know what I'm talking
sing a
about.
few bars.
I don't sing. I can I
Oh,
can tell you a good poem though, and well, I don't know if they're good, but
they're great.
thank you, buddy. By the
There
way,
you go.
Gary McMahon wrote that song.
Jerry McMahon.
Gary McMahon,
Gary
not
McMahon.
not Hugh McLennan.
Is he
Gary.
related to Larry? Um, isn't Larry the bronc rider? Larry
That's Larry
McMahon.
Mahan, not
Larry.
McMahon.
Uh-oh, rodeo guys are gonna be all over
Yeah, that
that deal.
rodeo guy. You better cut that out, bro.
Um, but so Keely Cavello, Unwon website. I interviewed her. I know be on the next podcast. I'm trying to get it edited. I told her it'd be out by now. It's not
Well,
out.
hurry up,
Sorry. What? I know.
hurry
I'm
up.
actually editing. I'm going. Well, it was a long, and then we kind of go in and out. I don't know. There's a lot, but and I'm trying to get it done while I'm unloading grain and driving
Yeah,
around. But
I get it.
so she investigated and did a documentary about these illegal marijuana pot grows on national forest land where these illegal immigrants come in. They spray all kinds of pesticides and herbicides in national forest land, clear that whole area, and then they start growing weed. And ranchers will come up in there and they'll get let out at gunpoint because they got leases in there and they're looking for cattle. And you come up on them and they're sucking water out of the creeks and stuff
Yeah, yeah.
and just destroying everything in there. And the sheriffs are, well, it's, and then, so the sheriffs are Gavin Newsom. Or the sheriffs are trying to get a hold of Gavin Newsom because he's the one that has to call in the feds, I guess.
So this is in California.
Yeah. And they get no help. They're 100% ignored. It's up in northern ranch country, California. I think she
Wow.
said, is it, I can't remember what the county is. I don't want to say the wrong one. But yeah. And it's insane. And so then, like, of course, during the interview, and this is probably a month ago that I talked to her, but I'm like, yeah. And look at who the Democrat Party puts up. We got the worst run state in the country. And the Democrat Party, when Joe Biden couldn't run, they've decided,
Yeah.
according to Harris today, he could have run, but he just had a bad debate. That's what she said today. It's like, and then the lady was like, so why are you the candidate? Anyway, got off track there for a minute. But when they decided he couldn't run, the two people they want to talk about were both California politicians.
Yeah.
A guy running the worst run state in America,
The worst run.
and then a lady who was what was she in the Senate? Wasn't she? Was she a senator or was she just DA? And then she tried to
No,
run for
no,
president.
he was a senator.
Okay, see, shows what I know about her.
Well, I don't know much
Anyway,
about her
they
either.
they want to. Why does the Democrat Party? I mean, they want. I don't know, but yeah, and can you believe that guy? I don't
Well,
know. Maybe we
it's
shouldn't even get into
honestly
it.
it's a testament to how corrupt that party is. I mean, it's just total mass chaos and corruption. And I mean, they couldn't run a business if none of them are business people.
I know it. That's what's
I
crazy
mean,
too. Like she couldn't. And the more you hear her talk, it's just like, holy
well,
smoke.
she's
Because
dumber
people
than a
say, well,
post.
she's really intelligent. She's a lawyer, all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if because is it an act because she doesn't want people to see like what she really wants to do, or is she really just that dumb? Like she's hard to listen to.
She
And I
is
get
so hard
people
to
who
listen
say
to,
that
but I
Trump is
don't
very
think
hard to listen to because there are times where I agree. He is at hard to listen to. But it's like her, she can't like spit words out of her mouth. And when then they get spit out, they don't say anything. Like she just takes these
well,
pauses.
don't
Eh.
discount her though, Jim. She's smart. I mean, she is
I
diabolical.
like what the one guy said. He said that Joe Biden was someone that they control, and as soon as they realized he wasn't going to fit, they had to find someone else that they could control like a puppet.
Agree.
And so she really hasn't have any of her own ambitions, and that's why like all of these new ideas of hers are, you know,
She
she
has
just
zero.
flipped. she's just changed her mind on all this different stuff
She
out of
has
nowhere.
zero policy.
She could care. She
Zero
don't care.
policy.
She just wants to be in control
She
or
has
get
no
elected.
policy, and you can listen to the few interviews she's done, and she dances around every question of
And
policy.
apparently Bernie Sanders, I think Megan Kelly said this. Bernie Sanders was asked about it, like, well, how come she can just flip flop? And he was like, well, she's running for president. It's what you got to do, which is
God.
true. But, I mean, have a little bit of conviction. It's tough. It's tough for these politicians when they zero
uh,
conviction.
this political life is tough for anybody.
All right, man.
The old double diamond.